Thank you, Mukesh sir. Uh, so I'm going to spend about 10 to 12 minutes just sharing some details. I thought the presentation needed to be in terms of sharing some of the best practices, what we are doing and what others are doing. But I wanted to give you a context also in terms of what's happening practically across globally. So you should be aware of how things are working. Where exactly are the employability skills required, the kind of employability skills required, everything from that sort. So let me first, give you a background of where India lies. And the interesting facet, we sitting in these air-conditioned rooms and, talking in English, believe that we are the world. Unfortunately, in India, that's not the issue. In India, majority of the population is in the rural areas. Access to speaking English or English conversational skills is bare minimum. The kind of exposure to, avenues what they may have after graduation or after doing the 12th, very limited. So what do I do? If you see the kind of skills gap we are talking about, and I can talk only about IT, I am from the IT sector, two basic aspects that you can see. One, there's almost a 5 lakh shortage, of IT professionals by 2014. No, this is not an ASCOM study. This is an Ernst & Young study. So it's a different organization. But the interesting part is, in the IITs alone, if you just look at the 16 IITs, there are, by the way, 16 IITs now, there are 35,000, shortage of faculty to the tune of about 35,000 overall, which is huge. Extremely huge. And what is going to happen is, if in the morning the minister talked about people not becoming teachers or faculties, that shortage is going to grow. It's going to be an immense issue, not for us, probably the next generation which comes in. I don't know if probably the gyan I was trying to give in the morning saying that personalized learning is going to come up. If that is some kind of a magic wand, probably we are safe. But if it does not happen, we are in deep trouble. I think that's the scenario. So a lot of investments are happening from the government, from the private sector, across all those stakeholders, which are universities, which are institutes, even the ITIs, the industrial training institutes, and even NGOs. So there's lots which is there. This is a study which has been carried out for NSDC by IMAX, that's another agency. In the study, there are two things that I wanted to bring forth. While there are the core areas which you may have, which include your real estate, building, construction, which are the core competencies, look at this bottom one, which is the, informal employment. There's a huge gap there too. And what is going to happen at that area? Probably it's still a dichotomy, because we are still not sure in terms of how things are going to crop up. Yes, the food processing, healthcare, new emerging areas, you would see, some skill sets being developed out there. So that brings me to a question as to how do we develop skills and what is happening in the education space. So if you look at it, what has happened, along with time, our education sector is still chugging along. I mean, we were the Nalandas, Takshilas, somewhere there was a downturn or whatever, but we are still chugging along. Technology, on the other hand, using Moore's law, is zooming up. So there is a mismatch, something where is happening, and we need to figure out what could be done. And that then, if you look at the challenges which are there, there are these 3 Qs which exist, which is in terms of quality, because that's one of the biggest paradigms that we have, quality of the institutes. The number of institutes, broadening access is happening. But the quality of those institutes which are opening up, some are really good, but some may be suspect. Quantity, do we need so many IT people? Is there a requirement? Probably in some domains when you do a deep dive. For instance, cloud computing requires, to the tune of about 1.4 million people globally. That's it. But I don't need more people. Everybody is doing cloud computing. I don't need that. That's what happened in India. Everybody got into software, everybody got into hardware, networking, multimedia. That's the trend, everybody follows that. And standardization. Today, how do you distinguish that a person from an XYZ college in Madhya Pradesh is equivalent to a person, say, from Nagaland? Where does the standardization exist? And that's the reason Dilip and team have come up with the National Vocational Educational Qualification Framework. That's called NVEQF. And that's being developed, in conjunction with MHRD. And they have created what are called as sector skill councils. So that's a similar practice. If at the bottom of my slide, you'll see some of the best practices which are being carried out by the other countries. So Singapore runs what is called as a WPLN framework. There are 8 domains in that, and based on the existence of a student when he's assessed, he can jump from one domain to another. It's similar if you've heard of the DOEC A, O, and C course. Similarly, they do it that way. US has what is called as NETs, and you can go to the site and see that. Similarly, UK has similar things, but I'm saying there's several practices which exist. Probably we should explore, replicate what we feel is the good one to do. But that brings me to a question: if we are developing skills, what do we need to develop these skills on? There's a full Dhobi list which I have listed out. Yes, good things, but 2 important things. 5 C's: creativity, critical thinking, collaboration, communication, and computing. These are the 5 C's, which are very important. And then there are the 3 I's. The 3 I's stands for innovativeness, intuitiveness, and the third thing is incremental. What happens in India? Whatever you do, you're happy you've done a pilot, and India is a deathbed of pilots. You'll have 1,000 pilots, going on. But you are never able to do an incremental thing to it. That's where the scaling comes into place. So you need to learn, you need to unlearn, and you need to keep on that process going. Besides this, I think the minister talked about ethics, and that's where social responsibility counts. So ethics is something which I also talked about in the B part of my ABCD. The balance between humanities is diminishing. We are focusing too much on the professional side. So I think there needs to be given an impetus towards arts and humanities, because we need anthropologists, we need sociologists who need to work with the business to come up with models. That's very important. So I talked about the 5 C's, and coming to some of the best practices that we do, I wanted to share a couple of things. So one of the C's which I talked about was computing. And I wanted to share with you a program that we run called Digital Literacy. It's available in 6 languages: English, Hindi, and the languages that you see below. Split into 5 modules, 30 hours, available free of cost at this site. D stands for digital. Saksharta, you understand in Hindi. It's a Hindi terminology. Anybody can go out there, undertake that course, either can go through the course or take a direct assessment, available free of cost at that particular site. Some of the initiatives that we are running, and if you see the different initiatives, different websites that I have provided, but just to give you an idea, you have 2 things which I wanted to pick up. One is what is called as Imagine Cup. What we do is we provide students with developer tools under DreamSpark. These people use those free developer tools, build applications, compete against each other. Once they compete in zones, regions, national, international. That's how you build those skills. The second thing is, a lot of the times people do not know where do I go for a summer training or a project. The students typically face that problem. We have created a site. We are not a Naukri.com. We don't do that. But we facilitate the switch companies. Satyam, Wipro, Infosys, Cognizant, TCS, HCL. We call them switch in IT. So it's the switch companies, and what our students do, they plug in their CVs, and it does a matchmaking. So that facilitation happens in that bottom-most rung, what you see in the students to business side. This is something very interesting. It's a subscription-based model, access to 300 e-learning courses. You have the latest technologies, latest curriculum, right from building apps for Androids, for Windows Phone, for anything, to even going in for large-scale certifications. Another interesting project. Students want to become venture capitalists, and I think Vivek Upadhyay, if I'm right, he was here in the morning, and he was talking about, something in terms of venture capitalists. What we do is, the best universities where the students come up with projects, typically we nurture these people for a year by providing them free tools. so that they can use it for a period of a year. After a year, when they exit, they need to pay Microsoft somewhere about $100 or $200. It's written out there, $100 to $200. But if the project is really good, we patch them with venture capitalists. That's where the catch is. So your skill sets are honed to the extent. So there are angel investors, there are angel mentors, and they do that entire patchwork. Something we do, what Madam Veera was talking about in the morning, which I was sharing with her, we run a Shiksha program, and in fact, courtesy Ravi, we have won some awards also on this. We have trained over 7 lakh teachers in the K-12 space and trained them using a program called Project Shiksha, train them how to use ICT in your day-to-day teaching. We don't teach what is a mouse, what is a hardware, we don't do that. We tell you, this is a class, 40 students, you need to take attendance, how can you do it on the web? Or you need to create a pivot table, how will you do that? Those are the things that we focus on, day-to-day applications rather than doing it on hardware or other things. Plus, like the Imagine Cup, we run what are called as Teacher Leadership Awards. And recently we had taken 6 teachers, including 1 teacher from MP, who competed with about 86 countries in Prague, which is in Czech Republic. So that's another thing which happened recently. Similarly, we do something for the higher ed side. So for the higher ed, we run a 10-day training program in which we train people how to use IT in their regular places, how to put your lectures online. How do you assess whether the student has actually accessed that lecture? And how do you take it forward? How do you do assessments? Things like those. That's another good practice which is being done from our end. But to end, what I would like to recommend is what I call, if you want to be a part of this pie, you need to follow this PIE. You need to partner with the industry. You need to invest as higher ed institutes or universities in your faculty, upgrade your infrastructure, and please seriously look at helping students become business incubators. You know, that's very, very important. From a government side, naturally, they have to enable the policy, they have to ensure the quality accreditation that happens. And there are various parameters that you need to do. I have listed out, again, a couple of them. So you should not be afraid of failure. That's one primary prerogative. And you need to be highly adaptable. You need to learn, you need to unlearn, you need to do all this. So these were some of the thoughts, and if we want to continue the conversation, my details are out here. Thank you very much.